Hello, this is Dr. Camp again from Campus Archaeology. It's December 2020, and once again we find me improvising on how we do archaeology this summer at Campus Archaeology. And today I'm going to share briefly how we are managing without our lab. This is my front yard, and I wanted to walk you through the process of what happens once we bring artifacts out of the field, away from the construction project, and back to the lab. So an important part of that step is, one, maintaining what we call provenience, meaning where those artifacts came from on the site. So often artifact bags, like the ones here that we see here, which are kind of special bags, they're not the normal plastic bags you get at the grocery store. They're meant to store artifacts for long term, 50 years or more. Often those bags or the bucket that we see in front of us are labeled with the provenience information for an artifact. So it'll often tell me where it was found, what year it was found, what date it was found, who found it, the precise geographic location of where the artifact was found on the site, how far down in the ground the artifact was found in the site. As I mentioned, we haven't been recording all of that because of the nature of the project and the pandemic, but we will put a label on the bag that denotes when it was found, who found it, and what site it's associated with. So normally the provenience information is on this bag, and that's really important to keep with the artifact. So once we bring the artifacts out of the field, we want to make sure that we keep that provenience information with the artifacts. The next thing that we do is when we start to go through the bucket of stuff that came out of the field, or maybe the bag of artifacts that came out of the field, we're going to inspect them and see if they can go into the water first. A lot of the bottles that we've pulled out of this site have a label on them. Like this Coca-Cola bottle here, you can see there's a label on it. If you run your fingernail over it, you can feel that label. If I put this in water, it might come off. And the label is really important because label styles changed over time, and that helps us date the bottle. It also helps us figure out where the bottle was manufactured. So we don't want to lose that information. So that this little colander of artifacts has been separated out from other artifacts, because if I put them in water, they will lose that information, that contextual information. So what's going to happen with these artifacts later today or tomorrow is that we're going to use a toothbrush and dry brush them. We're going to clean them with a toothbrush and not put it in water. It's kind of a tedious process. The artifacts that are sitting here in the buckets in water are artifacts that are fine to be in water. They're not going to lose any labels or information. So they're sitting there soaking because there's a lot of dirt on them. Some examples of artifacts that we might think twice about cleaning are like this spoon. This is a metal spoon. Metal corrodes over time. So probably not going to want to put that in water. So I'm going to put that in here. So we go through, we separate out the things that can be cleaned, the things that can't be put in water. Here's another cut bone. Someone had a good meal on campus a long time ago. We separate those out, and then artifacts get put into this bucket to be cleaned. So when I sit down and clean things, I have a toothbrush that's going to go in the water. Not a toothbrush we're going to use. And I use a dental pick too. Sometimes. On this site, there's a lot of metal that has melted on our glass and our ceramics, so I'm going to remove that with a dental pick. As I scrub, I'm going to make sure to scrub the edges of the ceramics, which help me identify the kind of ceramic it is. Is it porcelain? Is it earthenware? Those are all different types of pastes and help me date the artifact. I'm also going to keep my eye out again for any identifiable information that could come off of it. This one's fine. I already inspected it, but every now and then something slips into a bucket and it shouldn't be there. So you got to be careful about that. Once I've cleaned these artifacts, they're going to go on a tray. And if they have plastic bags that have their provenience information, that information that tells me where it came from on the site, those bags are going to go underneath these artifacts. They're going to stay on the tray that's the artifacts are supposed to go into that bag. So these artifacts that have been cleaned, and you can kind of see, I mean, some of them don't look that clean, but they've been cleaned off pretty well. And that's, again, because some of the metal that had been heated or heat affected ended up on the artifacts. So we may take another round. We may scrape them off with dental picks if we see other dirt that just wasn't removed during the cleaning process. This one, oops, hopefully I didn't break that. Luckily everything is pretty much broken, but here we found a plate that cross mends. It's really nice, meaning that those two pieces fit together. So these are going to dry for a couple of days. We want to make sure that we leave them out and we don't put wet artifacts into a bag because that can cause mold to accumulate in a bag. Other things that happen to artifacts in the laboratory process. One thing we really want to do is identify and date the things we find. So I really, really love this artifact we found on the site. Today, actually, I found it. And it's got a shoe and a little like red dress and grass. And I don't know this pattern. We have books that help identify patterns, but sometimes they don't have that exact pattern. So we might send this out to other archaeologists to help identify it. Maybe they've seen it on their archaeological sites. So we want to make sure we have a scale that we put. This is a scale right here. Put in the photograph so that the archaeologist can get a sense of the size of the artifact. So we might do some photography at the site. Once these artifacts have dried a couple days, we're going to put them in a labeled bag that again tells us the provenience of the artifacts, where they came from on the site, the date they were excavated, who excavated them. And then they're going to be analyzed at some point by other archaeologists working for Campus Archaeology. So we're going to do more analysis. We're going to try to date them. We'll fill out a catalog form for them. And I'll do another video on how do we catalog artifacts and identify them and date them. So thank you for listening. I'm going to go back to cleaning my artifacts. I hope you have a wonderful day.